Happy Saturday, everyone. Welcome to Sandra P's Gen Extra. Thank you all so much for joining during the live. I see one of my moderators is here. Mama Bees, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me during the live, Sandra P's Gen Extra. I hope everyone had a great weekend, is having a great weekend. Happy Saturday. All of that. Everybody, this was an episode. It's leading up to kind of a climax, but it's every week. I'm a little nervous and wondering how far they'll go. They don't disappoint. First episode, I had to give a 6. Sharon Gobert was here. She gave it a 3. So I didn't know what was going on within the first episode, but y'all, I think I don't know. It's explosive. It's worth watching. It's explosive. And we're going to talk about it. This is Braxton, the Braxtons. I was going to call them Braxton Family Values, but they've thrown the family values part out the window. Not going to say too much about that because they are like any other family. They do have a lot of drama, but they're sharing it with us on TV. So I do thank them for that because hopefully they are helping someone. The underlying theme of this season is the friction that has been caused amongst the sisters that was already there, but exasperated by Tamar inviting their niece, Michael's daughter, Ashley Braxton, from Spain. We know she's been in Barcelona, Spain for 10 years. The last time she was in the U.S., she came for her sister Lauren's funeral. A little bit of that was talked about on Braxton Family Values, but she's back in the U.S. now she's thankfully went back to Barcelona. Hopefully she doesn't come back unless that's something that she wants, but she's made a life there. She is doing well. She's an actress. She does a lot of commercials, I guess movies over there. I'm not sure, but I do follow her, and she seems to be a lot more healed than the Braxton sisters that we have access to. But this episode, this is episode 3. I have a few clips I'm going to share with you. So let me go ahead and run a banner just to let you know everything said on my video. It is alleged. It's my own personal opinion. There is a copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, where the allowance is made for fair use. And that's for purposes such as criticism, commentary, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Here, we will just talk. We'll engage about it. Y'all, this backdrop, I have to fix the picture because as you can see, it's cut off. You can see a little bit of Boyz II Men, a little bit of Toni Braxton. My t-shirt is showing you New Edition. And the reason why it's showing you New Edition, because even though they just got off of a residency, these guys are working, okay? They are going back out in 2026. They're going to have something unique. I'm going to pivot from the Braxtons and just tell you, Toni Braxton is going to be the one queen, okay? So we got 6 kings, which are New Edition, all 6. Everybody's back. 3 members of Boyz II Men. Y'all really need to bring Mike back. We need that bass back. I don't understand that whole thing, and I don't like it, okay? But, 3 Boyz II Men are better than none. So we got the 9 of them and Toni Braxton, 2026. So they got 2 North Carolina dates. So more than likely we'll be in the house for Charlotte and Greensboro. But knowing what we know about Toni and some of her health issues, and then sometimes other things happen with other members of various groups, I may try to catch an earlier city. Welcome in, Cece. Mama B's, you're not a Braxton fan? I can see why. They got so much going on, but it's just a character study. And honestly, I can't say they've gotten better over the years. They've actually, the way they've displayed themselves, they've gotten kind of worse. Welcome in. My moderator, Cece, is in as well. She's speaking to everyone, myself, Mama B's, the chat. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me this Saturday. Again, this is season 2. So this is their new show. This is the Braxtons, and then it is episode 3. And this episode, this was a pretty good one. We start out where we left off last week. Let me just make sure I can be seen correctly on YouTube. I'm trying out some different things with StreamYard. They have different orientations, like portrait, landscape, but I won't go into details of that. Start out where we left off last week. Trina is rushing home to her husband, Vaughn. They were down in Tulum, Mexico for Towanda's bachelorette shower something, but took place in Tulum, Mexico. Now, if you watch this channel, you already know that Towanda is my least favorite Braxton sister. I have found that over the years, she is the one that is behind the scenes doing a lot of manipulation, steering a lot of the audience thought that Tamar is this villain and all this kind of stuff. And really, it's been Towanda, in my opinion. There's a lot about Towanda that is going to come out over the course of this. And I think she's kind of annoyed that she can no longer shape the narrative the way that she used to. But again, these are all my opinions. So we'll talk about it. Cece saying, I don't like the Braxtons either. They are so self-absorbed and too much drama. Yeah, I think they've made this whole reality show shtick their main source of income, which the talent that's in that family is so breathtaking and amazing. Starting with Toni, starting with Tamar, even all the sisters and their harmonies, they've all had roles as backup singers for Toni and for other people. And they could have made a living doing that. But honestly, I think that when Mama E was on, Iyanla came on Braxton Family Values, they had, I'm not sure if it was a joint Iyanla Fix Your Life or something like that, but she was on Braxton Family Values. She couldn't even fix their life, but she was able to notice that some of Tamar's behavior and when she would like lash out at people, a lot of that came from Mama E. I'm Damo87. This is one of my moderators, my niece. Can't stand Towanda. Yeah, a lot of people, like I said, she's my least favorite Braxton. And we're going to see a lot of behavior that she's doing during the time. Okay, so Trina is rushing home to Vaughn. Remember, they were down in Tulum, Mexico for this shower. Okay, Vaughn wasn't well. So he said, why are you coming home? He said he didn't want her to come home, but he helpfully sent her a picture of himself in the ER. Like, so Vaughn, come on, what is it? So when he gets there, Trina rushes in. She rushes in, puts her bag down. Trina was very distressed, y'all. And Vaughn was really sick. He had an issue. So he was sitting in the recliner. Trina said, when I found out what was going on, Vaughn, I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all know I gotta pick at Trina. She said, I found out what was going on about Vaughn. Nothing would stop me from getting on the first thing back to Atlanta. So she goes back to Atlanta. She rushes in. She hugs him. He's sitting in his recliner. We've seen their house before. They have a beautiful home. Trina lives in Atlanta. She shoots her food series where she does recipes and stuff from her home. Vaughn's usually there, mostly eating, sometimes encouraging her, usually cutting her off, but that's their dynamic. We'll allow it. He says, I didn't go to my appointment before you left, and I didn't want you to know, because had you come in there and I had been sick, I knew you weren't going on this trip. I kind of appreciate Vaughn for that, because we already knew that Tamar felt like she was not wanted in Tulum. She was correct. And Toni wasn't going. Toni always had 5 other things to do before something to do with her sisters. So Toni wasn't going. And they didn't want to just continue to disappoint Towanda. But I think Towanda was very manipulative in what she did, how she did it, the whole planning of the wedding. But I'll get into that later. So Vaughn is telling us what happened. He ended up going to urgent care. He said, when I went in, I was 309 pounds. They pumped water out of this man. He was 279 pounds after the procedure, y'all. Lost 30 pounds of water. He said, well, when I lay down, I can't even breathe. They said, okay, this is urgent care. You need to go to ER right away. So he went to the hospital. They told him, if you had had a couple of beers and went to sleep, you wouldn't have woken up. So he says, I made a mistake. And you could see the regret on Vaughn. Now, Vaughn is a big man. He's a big man. He don't really have like a big belly or any of that. He's massive. But that 309, that's no joke. And then 30 pounds of water, that was scary. So he says, my lack of action could have impacted everyone. And he says, I got 90 days of exercise, diet, and medication to see whether or not I can change or if I'm going to have surgery. There's a valve issue. And Vaughn started crying. Trina is on it. She says, we can do that. The medicine, the diet, we can change all of that. She said, you get on my nerves, but I can't lose anyone else. We know within the course of probably 3 to 5 years, Trina has lost. It started out with the niece, Lauren, that's Michael's daughter. She lost her ex-husband, Gabe. Trina still had love for and a very close relationship with Gabe, even though they were divorced multiple times and she was remarried to Vaughn. Gabe is a loss. So we got Lauren, Gabe, and then the heart wrencher, number 3, Traci. She lost her sister. So she's telling Vaughn, I can't lose anyone else. I have a soft space in my heart for Trina. Trina gets on my nerves. I think she is a yes man for Towanda. I don't like that, but I felt for Trina in that moment. I appreciate her and Vaughn sharing this because a lot of these black men, y'all, they're not making it to 50. We just lost D'Angelo, what, a week ago? They're not making it to 50 or 60. They're not making it to old age. And a lot of them need to go to the doctor and get that diet in hand, try to get the stress levels down. All of that is just terrible. So she's lost deep, deep losses within probably 3 to 5 years. The next scene, y'all, I'm going to get through the review and then I'll read a couple of comments at a time. Then I have a few clips to share. Because I said this was an action-packed episode. I thank you for joining Sandra P's Gen Extra. And if you would just go ahead and click the like, share, subscribe, comment. That keeps me active in the algorithm. Thank you for watching. Polite contrarians are welcome here. What that means is Tawanda's my least favorite Braxton. I don't care for her. Toni is a trip and a vacation, as my father used to say to my mother, all tied up together. And my mother was that. Toni Braxton she's a mess. She's a menace. She says she's a big dog. She's all this. Toni's a trip. I love Toni Braxton, okay? I do. Tamar is a trip as well. I love Tamar. But you don't have to love Toni. You don't have to love Tamar. 2 of the mods said they don't like the Braxton. Mama Bees and Cece don't like the Braxtons. But they're here supporting me, and I love it. Thank you. Okay, so Toni bops in. There is a Dr. Walter Millsap. I know that name. I feel like he's gospel or something. I don't know. But she's preparing for the Miami Jazz Fest. She says, with lupus, I cannot do a 2-hour tour alone. Y'all see my backdrop? This tour, this stage that New Edition, Boyz II Men, and Toni are going to have, all 10 of them, this is what they're saying. They're going to all be on stage at the same time, like doing different things. So we'll see how Toni going to work that. But she's not used to doing 2 hours alone anymore because, as we all know, she has been in Vegas with Cedric the Entertainer for laughs and songs. She's the songs, he's the laughs, and she gets to kind of mix it up. They're in one place. They're on the strip at can't remember the hotel, but it's kind of light work for her. She can do that. So she's getting ready for this Miami Jazz Fest, which is different. She says she's trying to work with the heart thingy, as she calls it. We know now that even with the lupus, she's been told by her doctor, she can't overexert herself. She can't overstress herself. And her job usually involves a lot of travel. That's another thing. We're going to see how this tour is going to go. So we have confessional Toni. She says, I'm worn out. There's not enough for me to go around. Toni, take care of yourself, baby. Toni's Gen X. She's a Gen X legend. And how many Gen X legends have we lost? I'm telling you, health is no joke. So she's worn out. She said, I do not want to miss Towanda's Bridgerton-themed shower. I don't want to disappoint her again. Towanda is getting on my nerve with this engagement and this wedding. Her and Sean could have been married. Y'all, they got engaged during Braxton Family Values. Or maybe it was the first season of the Braxtons. I know they jumped up on either Tamar's or Toni's stage and he proposed. They're both attention pros, in my opinion. I don't care for either one. And I don't like how she's stressing her sister out. I think it's selfish. So she doesn't want to miss this Bridgerton-themed shower and disappoint Towanda. I said, take that bum to the courthouse and leave Toni alone. So they're practicing, he wasn't man enough for me. The little dancer showing. Toni still got it. Toni still got it. I remember that video with her in the white. I love it. No, that was You Making Me High. That was You Making Me High. So Tamar is in a scene. She's with T.S. Madison. That interview is so good. There's really good coverage of it. It's only an hour. It is on YouTube. It's called The Outlaws. T.S. Madison also, she puts it on YouTube and then iHeartRadio broadcasts it as well. But the network specialist is a content creator that she reviews it for you. She's already covered it. So if you don't want to spend an hour, just go listen to her. But Tamar and T.S. Madison do this podcast. Tamar gave a very candid interview. I listened to it the other night. It was worth listening to. We find out they have been friends for the last 12 or 13 years. And T.S. Madison, who's very messy, says, "What about your niece? What's going on with that?" Tamar says, "I received a cease and desist. I just can't talk about it." She said the family attorney sent it to her. So this, I guess the Braxtons have an attorney that they share for certain things that might impact the whole family. So Maddie's telling Tamar, my co-host says that family, they just like drama. Tamar's got her stone face on. She doesn't like him. I think his name is Craig or Greg, Craig the writer. He works with T.S. Madison on another show on YouTube. He don't like Tamar. He and Tamar have gotten into it. She says, "I don't think he likes me. And it's crazy offensive for him to say that we like drama." So Madison is saying, well, it's probably because, you've been on TV all these years. She said, Tamar said, "Be careful speaking on people when they're trying to find themselves. He has an issue with me." She said, "He should remember before speaking on us that we are human and we're the only Black long running family reality show, period. And we've been on TV. We get confessional, Tamar. That backdrop of Tamar, I wonder if that's her home. It is beautiful, y'all." She said, "We have been on TV a century." Production tells her a decade. She said, "Oh, a decade, 10 years. Okay." So they've been on TV a decade. Madison says, "Tell us about the Tamar villain era. When did that start?" Tamar said, "I feel like it started from the first show because that's how it was portrayed. Production shows us a clip of all of the sisters kind of getting on Tamar about this, that, and the other thing over the time. We know Tamar used to say anything, and she kind of still does, but that was when it kind of be painted that Tamar was the problem. But as we've watched them over the years, we know that I think all of the sisters are a problem in their own right. Traci was probably, rest in peace to Traci, the least problematic out of the bunch and used to call them out. She'd call a snake when she saw a snake, Towanda. She'd call attention hungry when we saw an attention hungry, Tamar. So Traci was kind of like she would speak truth to everybody. So she says that her villain era started back then. She said they would always say that she was the problem. She was isolating herself, even when they would leave her alone. I remember there was a scene that happened where they invited her out. Vince was there, and Towanda had a problem with it. He wasn't even sitting with them. He was at another table, and they all left and left her alone. And Tamar took like a picture of the table with her sitting by herself. "Here's the empty chairs. Here's me, Tamar." And she sent it to Mama Evelyn. And Mama Evelyn had a problem with it, as she should, because that was wrong. So T.S. Madison says, "Do you realize that you're good TV?" She says, "Yes, I do." So I wonder if that feeds into how she acts, or if the fact that she acts that way makes her good TV. I don't know. So she says she's been celibate a year. We're going to hear this a few times from Tamar. We know she was last married to Colonel Sanders that she met on that show. That's part of the interview they talk about. Tamar says that was real. She went on the show for the check. She gave like an astronomical amount she didn't think she would get, and Will Packer gave it to her. And then she went on there and called herself falling in love with Colonel Sanders. So she says she's celibate. And T.S. Madison jokes, "I'm going to sell a bit too." But she said it's like SELL, sell a bit. She's a trip. So you can watch the interview on YouTube if you want to. I have a link of another interview between Traci's widower, Kevin Surratt, and Andre, which is Tawanda's ex-husband. So the link that is in the description, I'm going to reference that. So we got Towanda in a purple confessional look, says, "I'm not feeling the best after my car accident." Now, y'all, I believe she got hit by a car at the Atlanta airport. I'll give her that. We saw the cast. We saw the bump on her nose. She appeared to be scratched up. But I'm sorry, y'all. Towanda knows how she's coming across this season. She knew that certain things were going to come out. I feel like she's trying to buy audience sympathy. That's just my opinion. That's allegedly and in my opinion, okay? That's just my opinion. I'm trying to find something else that says my opinion. I'll just leave that up. That's just what I think about it. So Towanda says she's not feeling her best, but she still wants to meet the designer for her dress. So she goes there to the dress site. I can't remember the young man's name. She said, "We got 3 weeks." The stylist said, "Do you say 2 to 3 months?" She said, no, not 2 to 3 months, 3 weeks. So Towanda, why didn't you hire this man before that? I'm going to tell you what I think about her and Sean. It got on my nerves. She said, weeks, not months. He asked if there's any wiggle room. So we get a confessional with her saying, wiggle room, this is weeks, not months. This man better work before he works my nerves. You know, Towanda is an actress and she's always acting. So he says, you have requested specific colors that are kind of different, which are lavender and chocolate. I think that's beautiful. I wouldn't have thought of that combination, but that's really pretty. So, y'all, at this meeting, Mama Evelyn is there. Her daughter, Brooke. Brooke is a young teen, maybe 14 or 15. Brooke's doing her own thing. She got the face of Towanda and Ashley, but she's wearing this kind of Raggedy Ann blue, a blue Raggedy Ann braid. So these teens are tripped. They make me laugh. And Trina's there. So that's all who's there to represent Towanda from the family and watch her. One point, Towanda says, I wish that everybody could be here. Tony's not coming. Tamar's not coming. And then we get a confessional with her saying, I supported everyone during their wedding. This is Tawanda's first wedding. I guess her and Andre went to the courthouse, which in my opinion, she and Sean should be doing. But she is wearing a sweatshirt that has a middle finger stuck up on it. Y'all, I find her so vulgar. I'll read a few comments and then we'll continue on. No one can stand Towanda. Cece saying, be blessed, everyone. Oh, and then she mentioned, I want to see New Edition Boyz II Men and Toni next year. I do. I'm speaking that to existence. I have the pre-sale already. October 28th. If I find the code again, I'll put it up here. Ronnie put out the code. Towanda is so annoying. Yes, she is. So I think Tawanda's acting. She puts this she tries this ridiculous thing on. It looks like Game of Thrones or something in purple, kind of like a ice skater outfit, and she comes shimmering back in. So Mama E's kind of laughing. Trina's like, ooh, that's not the one. And they decided they don't like it. Tamar and Toni, again, are not there. And then she's got 28 ladies of honor, y'all, in addition to her sisters. They're not there either. So her little trick didn't work. I think it's ridiculous. So Miss E said that dress looked like she was going into battle. It did. It wasn't cute. And then Trina says, and it sounds like a bag of coins. Because like I said, it was like an ice skater type thing. And it was just clink, 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 clink. The Mama E was saying clink, clink, clink. And I hate to say it, y'all. Towanda has a beautifully shaped head. You can wear a wig or not wear a wig. We know she has alopecia. I have nothing against natural hair, bald hair, whatever we want to do. I believe in the Crowned Act. I don't get on Black women about their hair, wig, none of that. But I'm sorry, she is a fool with that bride headband on that bald head. That looks crazy. So Miss E is on the confessional saying, oh, the smile on that girl, I just want to cry. So they're still selling us that Sean and Towanda are so happy. Y'all, I'm so skeptical of Sean because I feel like he loves the cameras. And y'all know he's wearing a man wig. Now, your fiance has alopecia. She's been rocking her bald. He's bald as well, but he gonna put a man wig on. Okay, Sean. So she's telling Mama E the cast might come off before the wedding. And Miss E says, well, do you think you should postpone? She says, no. Sean asked me the same thing. Should I postpone? Should we wait until I'm 100%? But I am 100% in my heart. Trina and Mama E said, aw, y'all, they a trip. She's always fake acting with her corny Tubi movies, shaking my head. I think that about her too, Church 612, and I hate to think that, but I do. I think it's performative. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. So she's not going to push back the date. I think the date, of course, the wedding has already happened. This is the thing about social media telling us everything before the show airs. Tamar was not there. Her wedding was like March 22nd. Y'all know Tamar's birthday is like between the 15th and 17th of March, which Tamar says she don't do a lot of stuff on her birthday. But y'all, did you know that Traci actually passed, I think somewhere mid-March, somewhere around Tamar's birthday, which is another reason why Tamar goes into kind of like a spiral around her birthday. And Tawanda's been engaged to this ninja for the better part of 5 years. So what was so pressing for her to get married and rush this wedding through in March, other than the fact that they were filming? This is why I don't care for her. I'm sorry. So Trina says, uh, she says, I forgot what she called Uggums. Uggums, don't worry about who's not here because Towanda's still upset that Tamar and Toni aren't there to bring more eyes to her shenanigans. Trina says, don't worry about it. And this is the second time she shaded Trina, like, oh, I wish everybody were here. But she's got Trina, she's got her daughter Brooke, she's got her mother, but she wants Tamar and Toni. And Trina said, don't worry about who's not here. It's a boat, you and Sean, as long as y'all show up. So we'll see. So the next scene, we are back at Trina and Von's beautiful home. Trina's in the kitchen. Trina trying to make a moment because Von's not going for this. Trina has got all this food out on the counter, talking about she's going to shave down like the food in the house because they have to change their diet because of his health. And Von is like, we talking about throwing food away. I'm with Von. I don't believe in that. Agree. Want Tamar and Toni screen time. That's all. I believe it. And then Church 612 says, opportunist, much Sean. Absolutely. That's what I think it is. That's what I think it is. I think he's an opportunist. So we're back with Trina and Von. He says he's not going to throw all that food away. Trina said, no, we're going to give it to the boys. So she hands him this big garbage bag. And I don't like the way they're putting the food in it. If you're going to give it to the boys, you don't have to put it in a garbage bag. I don't care for that. You know, Trina has 2 adult sons from her first husband that Gabe, the second husband, kind of took on as his sons, but it's his behavior, rest in peace, Gabe, but his behavior became so disgusting, and then the way he was treating and humiliating their mother, they fell out with him and they didn't like him toward the end of his life. And this is kind of like a trend on reality. Karen Huger did this one season when she's over on Potomac. She stopped eating chicken and threw out all this chicken. And these times, y'all don't do that. So Trina's pulling out stuff. Von picked up some Girl Scout cookies. Where you get these Girl Scout cookies? Then Trina starts stuttering. And he's like, oh, okay, so you're going to be selective. You see, Trina, Von caught you. So she said, oh, and these apple fritters. He said, nope, I'm not giving up the apple fritters. I'll cut down. We find out from Trina, this man has his apple fritters flown in from his favorite bakery in St. Louis. Okay. So next we get a scene of the TV crew. They're setting up for Toni. Toni has a business meeting. They get a call to the showrunner. She got to reschedule. She's got to fly to Atlanta immediately. Y'all, Miss Evelyn is in the hospital. We get a preview of Towanda claiming, I don't feel safe. I'm drawing a line. And Trina saying, we don't fight. Again, Towanda's acting. The only one I see people threaten to put hands on is Tamar. And all Tamar be doing is fighting. Is talking. I guess her words are like verbally fighting, but all she be doing is talking and they threaten to put hands on her. So Tamar is telling the showrunner, the only time I see you is in front of a camera and I'm the attention-seeking problem. So that's coming up in a preview, y'all. We looking forward to that. Next, we get a scene where Tamar says, Logan and I pray. And at 1 a.m, Logan says, and pray for Nana because she got a procedure in the morning. Now, y'all know Logan is a gamer, and he's kind of an older 11-year-old because he and Tamar are best friends. He and Vince are best friends. And Logan has always been very nosy. He's really funny. I've seen him online before. Logan is a trip. So he knows this. Mama E shared this with him and didn't share it with her daughters. So we find out she's going in for some type of heart issue. And Tamar screamed, who? For what? So Miss E has a blockage. She went in for a test. You know, they put the dye through your body to see where the blockage is. She did have blockage. They had to end up putting a stent in. Y'all, this was very concerning because of Mama Evelyn's age. And Trina tells us, also Tamar told us, the last time she had to have a stent in, it triggered a stroke. So we wish, health for Mama E. So they were, Miss E told Logan that, and he ended up telling Tamar, thank God. Tamar rounded up the sisters. And in a confessional, Trina is telling us the details of what happened with the last stent. Trina she said, PSA, this is a public service announcement. Tell your family what is going on with your health. She said, first Von and now Mama. So I know Trina is stressed out. Tamar starts reading a menu. They're in the hospital with Miss Evelyn. She started reading the menu. Miss Evelyn is not impressed with any of the choices. Y'all know when seniors go in the hospital, they always want real food and outside food. Tamar says, Well, since you're famous and you have these famous daughters, Tamar's always teasing Miss E. We're filming this show right now, but it's true, they are filming. Miss E called Towanda. Towanda got her marriage license. Did y'all know she was engaged? Yeah, they just got the marriage license. And Miss E says, "Look at God." She said, "Towanda, let me see your bruise. How you healing up?" Towanda said, "Well, I can't show you the bruise because I'm not trying to get naked." Tawanda's teasing her. Miss E's like, "I don't want to see you naked." All right. And okay, next we have confessional. Toni is telling the viewer, telling us, "It's never good to hear mommy is sick, but I'm coming to Georgia to check on her." She said, "I believe mommy's doing a brave face. She hasn't told us what's really going on." And it's true. Miss Evelyn, we find out that Miss Evelyn thought that she was going in for, she said, "I've had this before." And they were like, "Oh, you're talking about a stress test." It wasn't that, y'all. It was an actual procedure. So I don't know how she misunderstood. But then Miss E was talking a little bit of junk. She said, "Can I have my own business? I don't have to tell everybody my business." But I'm sorry, for a senior parent, their health is everybody's business. Because if something goes wrong, the children are the one. We went through this in my family. We are the ones impacted. So I don't care how grown you are, at 70, 80, 90, we need to know what's up. Okay. So they were getting on Miss C. She said, "I only told Logan." And Tamar said, "He's 11. Toni said, "You can tell Logan, but also tell some of us as well." Miss E talking about, "Look at God." She said, "You still got the information." So now we get a confessional with Trina claiming things have been stressed since Tamar invited our niece on the podcast. Trina, I don't agree with that. Things were stressed before that. Don't put this mess on Ashley. Don't do that. I think they were strained since Trina didn't act upon finding out what her husband did, sending him nasty texts to a teenager. So Trina says, "We're putting our differences aside for mommy." And then next we show there is a scene where Tamar's telling Miss E, "You can't have any stress." And Miss E is like, "Well, then I just won't be able to leave the house." That's true. If you leave your front door, there's stress. There's a scene with Towanda and Trina. They are meeting for lunch. Towanda didn't wait. I don't know if Trina was late, but Towanda already had her drinks and she was already eating. So Trina says, "Oh, that looks good." Trina gets her food. Tawanda's asking Trina to pass the salt. And Tawanda's like, "I'm engaged. I'm engaged." This went on like 3 or 4 times. Y'all, that shtick is falling flat. We don't care. It's like a desperate pick me. Sean be talking crazy to her on these podcasts, y'all. I don't care for him. Because she's supposedly known him so long. Now, all of a sudden, that she was single, he's so in love, coinciding with her being back on TV. And now they got to get married right now. So Tamar is meeting with the ladies, the sisters. They want to iron out this cease and desist. But what I didn't like, when Tamar came in the room, they were talking about everything but that. Toni is telling us, not Toni, I'm sorry, Tamar is telling us, "I asked in a group text, what is it about this cease and desist?" Nobody answered her. Toni gives another confessional. She says, "I'm sad that mommy is sick, and I don't know why there's this friction between the sisters." See, Toni Braxton, I love you, but this is why I can't with Toni. Toni be lying with a straight face. She knows why there's friction. There's always been friction. I think Tamar and Toni kind of get a jealousy vibe from Towanda, and I think Trina kind of wants everybody to get along, but she's kind of a yes man to Towanda. I think that's the friction. So they all greet, but then when Tamar sit down, they start looking a little bit crazy. They start talking a little bit of nonsense about oysters. Toni's like, "I wish I could eat oysters." Somebody says, "Why can't you eat oysters?" She don't like the slime. They were like, "Don't you have a man?" Of course, they start talking crazy. Towanda mentioned something about fellatio. Towanda, stop, Towanda. Just so we find out from Tamar again, she's been celibate a year. Toni tells her she has not. She said, "You were married a year ago." We didn't know she was married to Colonel Sanders until it went left. So she was married a year ago. Tamar says, "I got broken up with on my birthday. Yes, I have been celibate for 1 year." Toni says, "I'm not going to argue about your vagina." And then Tamar says, "How was Tulum?" asking Towanda. Tawanda's like, "Tulum was fun, but I couldn't do anything." Y'all, there's this big elephant in the room, but they talking about everything else. "Tulum was fun, but I couldn't do anything." Toni says, "She got hit by a car." Yeah, she got hit by a car and she's engaged. So Tamar asked, how's the wedding planning going? And then Tawanda's kind of looking at her. Tamar says, I was relieved from my duties. Tamar wants to get started. I was relieved from my duties. Towanda starts, who relieved you from your duties? I'll wait. And then I thought Towanda was being passive aggressive. So we get Trina lying. She said, it was clear about Towanda did not have any individual maid of honors. She had ladies of honors. All of her friends and all of her sisters, we are all the ladies of honor. We get a confessional with Toni telling the truth. Toni said, this didn't make any sense. She said, everybody is a lady of honor. So they all supposed to be like us, which is true. And then Tawanda's saying, Toni didn't do any of the stuff she was supposed to do as the lady of honor. But if you got 28 ladies of honor, in addition to your 3 sisters, how do you know who's supposed to do what? So Tawanda's little shtick fell through to me. So that is dumb. I'm with Toni. I'm confused as well. Tamar's still saying she got disinvited to Tulum. Towanda lies. That's not true. Production steps in. Y'all, I don't like Ori, the showrunner, I don't like him. Do y'all want to go there? He's scared because he tells Towanda one thing. He tells Toni another thing. He tells Tamar another thing. They've already got this underlying tension, and he keeps it up. So he's like, y'all want to go here? Tamar says, yes, we do. Tamar pulls out, this is the cease and desist. She says a different, Trina said, it's what? It's called what? You mean the cease and desist? Tamar said, yeah, the cease and desist. Y'all tried to block my business. Y'all tried to stop what I'm doing on my podcast. Towanda said, don't say y'all. Don't say y'all. I think it was Towanda. I think she probably talked to Michael, Ashley's father, about it, their brother, because he doesn't seem like he'd be involved in that. He is a nurse. He has a profession, but he's not in the public eye like these ladies. And I also suspect Toni might have had something to do with it. They're all saying they did not. We get a confessional from Tamar saying, my sister sent me a cease and desist, and they want me to talk about other stuff, everything else, and everybody claiming, they don't know what's going on. So she said, who sent this? She called him a ninja. She said, who gave this ninja my address? The attorney got her address. Towanda said, that hadn't been my attorney in years. I don't believe you, Towanda. I think you probably just didn't pay him. But Tamar said that is a family attorney. So I guess this attorney has acted on Braxton business before. And Toni said, Tony's in third person now too, y'all. It's getting ready they're going to set it off. Toni Braxton didn't do it either. Toni Braxton ain't got nothing to do with this. And Tamar said, he's your best friend. And Toni said, Toni Braxton will not be accused of a crime Toni Braxton did not commit. Y'all, this sounds crazy because it is. Tamar said, one of them gave this attorney my address. She says, I'm a promoter. I'm a singer. And any cease and desist is an attempt to cut down my business. They didn't have my back. So now Toni gets really upset. Because, Toni and Tamar used to be close. On Braxton Family Values, Toni even told us that for a long stretch of time, the only sisters supporting Mama Evelyn financially was Tamar and Toni. And I believe that. She said they didn't have her back. Toni Braxton didn't have your back. So Toni says, no, I want to get this on the record on national TV. You saying Toni Braxton didn't have your back? Lord, give me the strength. Tamar says, yeah, give her the strength and give her some muscles. So then, y'all, Toni said, don't F with me. You effing with a heavyweight. She started getting ready to stand up. You can't really tell because she's so little. She flailing her arms. That's the end of the episode. So what I like about it, I'll tell you what I like. I don't love the mess. I don't love the friction between these sisters. But because we know that Ashley being on that podcast has kind of stirred up something that has been kind of buried, they are going to, they're showing backwards leading up to this scene. So last week it started out 3 weeks prior to this scene. And then this week, episode 3, they went 2 weeks prior to this scene. So we get a preview. Toni is clarifying. So Tamar is definitely not attending the wedding. And Towanda snaps, no. And we know that she didn't. She didn't attend the wedding. We see Toni bucking up again, being held back, y'all. How much does it take to hold Toni Braxton back? But she says she's a heavyweight, so we'll see. Tamar is screaming, don't put your hand on me. And then we see Tamar smack something like water and it kind of flashes on Towanda. Tawanda's like, ooh, because Tawanda's talking reckless. And it looks like, I don't know, Toni might have been reaching out to touch Tamar. I don't know. So, y'all, there's a lot going on. Just anything, Towanda. Yeah, when she starts talking like that, it's just for TV. It's ridiculous. How are y'all even having this silly sideways conversation? And there's a cease and desist literally on the table. Tamar brought it with her. And that's what she was waving, those yellow envelopes. Traci 612 is laughing. That's that accent too, saying laugh out loud. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Trina, come on. They said they don't know where Trina got that Canadian accent from, but they said certain parts of the DMV, maybe the people speak like that, but they all grew up in the same house, so I don't know. I've never heard it. All I know from like certain areas is they'll do the O's are like the ooh, like to you, and I love that. But Trina doing something different. So y'all, this is a mess. Okay, so next we have, I'm gonna allude to a couple of things. This is all allegedly and in my opinion, but it is related to the Braxtons. Okay, so there is, let me see if I have this scene, what they were talking about. Another scene. They didn't show it this week. It gets confusing, y'all, because they show scenes that haven't been previewed yet. Let me see which one this is. This is a new one. I'll just play the sound so we don't have to worry about.
Do I know where you live?
Well, of course you don't come. So my thing, I know where you live.
Tell me if you can hear that.
Beautiful.
And you've been stealing from me for the past couple years on my credit cards. And help me.
What you steal?
I don't steal anything.
You don't. You sold men.
Who's the man that I stole?
Tony's. You slept with them.
Oh.
A few times.
Oh, what man?
Do not get the link.
Don't you go down there, bitch?
Oh, you're such a liar.
Oh, my sister's man. He said he Towanda.
No, that's a lie.
I swear to
No,
God.
that's a lie.
Which
fraud are you trying?
Your man for? You think
Okay, y'all, that's coming up. I'm gonna read Mama B's. Mama B says, I am from the DMV and I don't know anyone that talk like that. Okay, Mama B. So that's when people say that, they're just trying to take up for Trina. Then it sounds ridiculous. I've never heard that. It sounds Canadian to me. A boat. I don't know what's going on. A boat. So that scene that I just played, that's the one where Tamar swipes a glass. So there's some kind of down payment that was paid for Towanda. Towanda flips it. She deflects and says, you do steal. You stole Tony's man. No, Tony's ex. So is that stealing if it's Tony's ex? Now, who do y'all think the ex is? Could it have been the ex-husband? Could it have been Carrie, Mr. Ding-a-ling-a-go? Remember Tamar made that song up about him? But then she turned around and said, somebody said they messed with Towanda too. So what's going on over there at the Braxtons? This is a trip, y'all. That's coming up. That's an upcoming scene. So that's one of the ones. Could y'all hear that? I'll play it again if you could. Let me hear it again.
You slept with them.
Let me go back. All right.
Do I know where you live?
Well, of course you don't come. So my thing, I know where you live because I put down your down payment.
Beautiful.
And you've been stealing from me for the past couple years on my credit cards. And help me.
What you steal?
I don't steal anything.
You don't. You sold men.
Who's the man that I stole?
Tony's. You slept with them.
Oh.
A few times.
Oh, what man?
Do not get the link.
Don't you go down there, bitch?
Oh, you're such a liar.
Oh, my sister's man. He said he Towanda.
No, that's a lie.
I swear to God.
That's a lie. Which fraud are you trying?
Your man for? You think
Okay, y'all, what happened was Toni was sitting on her mouth in an O. Tamar jumped up when Towanda accused her of stealing Tony's ex. I don't know who the ex is. Toni been married to Birdman for years, undercover, so we don't know. Carrie was the ex-husband, the father of the boys. I don't know, y'all. This is a mess. Traci 612 says, yes, that's a mess. Can't wait. Isn't this terrible? I feel the same way. But you know, when Towanda said that about Tamar and one of Tony's exes, which I don't know if I believe, Tamar accused Towanda, you've been stealing from my credit cards for years. Towanda is a fraud, y'all. Towanda has been busted for fraud before. Yes, she has. The responsible one. back on the first show. She was. All right, I'll have another scene I'm going to play. This is from a podcast. I put this link on the description. This is Kevin and Andre. Andre's going to allude to something that Traci and Kevin did for he and his family. He doesn't say what it is, but I'll tell you after I play this. Okay.
Urban Smart Studios.
This is from Urban Smart. I'll link to this.
Hello, my name is Kevin Traci.
Yeah.
Everything you're about to hear is my perspective.
Wait a minute, I don't want that whole thing. I thought I put the one moment. Let me find
Get at me
later. Let's do a basketball game.
One
it
second.
was me and Towanda against you. Yeah, they did. Towanda didn't want me because I didn't know how to play. So she like, no, said to me, Kevin, he said, Daddy, last time I talked to him, he said, why didn't
went through a divorce, his house. You know, we ain't
I'm sorry, I thought that
things
had
up for
that
him like
queued
that.
up.
You know, you had to go to
One
church.
second.
just give us a little time?
Taking her because she
I thought
was
I
a
put that.
competitor. Baseball, deal
One
with
second.
it. He was home with those kids.
Here we go. This is
Yep.
the
You know
part.
what I mean? And I went
Us, Kevin, and you know, one of those things being in supporting us with the kids, man, that what she did during that time period was that was so valuable to me, man, and I'll never forget her for that because she stepped, out of her bounds and came over on our side and helped us out until we could sort through the situation. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. So
I do.
and taking care of the kids, and that's why the kids, love her to this day, even now, man. And I just have the utmost respect for Traci for doing that because no one else volunteered. I'll say this though, I don't know if anybody else volunteered, so I don't know, but I know Traci was the one that ended up doing the job. If you understand what I'm saying.
I do, man.
Okay, y'all. That's Kevin Surratt. That is Traci's widower. Okay, he's not an ex-husband. He was married to Traci on the day Traci died. Okay, the other man is Towanda's ex-husband, Brooks, and the other boy's father. All right. Now I say he's their father. He was actually a teacher in Atlanta during Braxton Family Values when Towanda would be on the road and all that kind of stuff. She had this man painted out to be a straight up deadbeat. This man was a teacher. What he's alluding to of Traci stepping in and helping care for the kids, Towanda was convicted of writing bad checks, some other type fraud. So this factors in with Tamar accusing her of using her credit cards without permission. So fraud. Tamar, you need to get your credit cards together. Why does your sister that you're not even really close with like that have access? But I know Towanda, when she need money, have served in capacity of like assistants and backups, singers type thing for Tamar and Toni. So she probably, the way they are with their finances, she probably could have access to credit cards. But Kevin and Andre, they're alluding to the situation, but not really saying what it is. So that's another reason I don't care for Towanda. She want to out everybody in their business, but paint herself as Miss Responsible One. And now she's trying to steer the audience toward being so happy for her and Sean. You know the ninja for years, go to the courthouse. We don't really care. And I don't like how she portrayed Andre. People to this day think that man is a deadbeat. He's not. She might be the deadbeat, allegedly, and in my opinion. So there we went on that. That was just a slight rant because Towanda gets on my nerves. I'll try to be fair with her when I can, but for the most part, she just gets on my nerves. Okay. Oh, also, when Tamar says, you don't, do you know where I live, Towanda? You don't know, you know where I live, but you don't come over there. And then she said, I know where you live because I paid the down payment. So Towanda was already kind of heated about that. So now I don't know why that stuff came up with Toni's ex. If it's true, I don't know. I'm not sure. But yeah, I have to agree with the moderator, Church 612. I believe that about Towanda stealing. This is allegedly, it's in my opinion. I could not find the paperwork. I remember seeing her mugshot years ago. Y'all know you can scrub the internet of some things. I haven't been able to find it recently. So click on the description box. Watch that interview. It's about probably 9 months old. It's Andre and it's Kevin. So it's pretty interesting. This is the third episode. This is getting pretty good. It's called Unbreak My Heart. We're in season 2 of the Braxtons. We're leading up to that explosive dinner scene. I think I shared everything that I needed to as far as with these Braxtons. I appreciate every moderator that comes in during the live. If you can be here the whole live, if you can be here for a few minutes, every bit helps, because when there are people on the live and kind of chatting and stuff, it helps people be attracted to it. YouTube will promote it a little bit more. And for a smaller growing channel like mine, it's invaluable. I appreciate it so much. So I have a note. Name the man, and why is he going through the Braxton sisters? Because after Towanda said that to Tamar about Toni's ex, and Toni's mouth was in a little O, Tamar stood up and said, he told me he effed Towanda. So I hope this is not Carrie. I hope an ex-husband would not do something like that. I don't care about like ex-boyfriends and stuff, even though I wouldn't want any one of my sisters' ex-boyfriends or anything like that. But an ex-husband, that's actually family. That would be totally below the belt and disgusting. I'd be more inclined to believe it about Towanda than I would Tamar. That's just me. That's just what I feel. So, y'all, this is getting pretty good with 3 episodes in, and it's engaging. I hate to see them do this. Really, to me, the more heartfelt part of the episode was Trina rushing home to Vaughn, then finding out Mama E felt like her health issues were her business. And I'd say that probably were the most kind of heart-wrenching part. Wish both of them the best of health. But this whole thing between the sisters, I'm not loving it. But I'm seated. I'm waiting to see what's going to happen. And again, I'm glad that Towanda is being exposed for the snake that Traci called her years ago. She actually is. And y'all, if you will, click on the link. Click on the description box. Yeah, this is about to end. Trust 612. Sorry, chat. Gotta go. Good night, everyone. Thank you. Good night to everyone. Thank you for joining Sandra P's Gen Extra. Watch the interview with Andre and Kevin. I've linked the description. Also, T.S. Madison and Tamar's interview is pretty good. And then the network specialist did her own summary of it. If you don't want to go ahead and watch that. Cece's telling everyone have a great rest of your weekend, ladies. Thank you, Cece. Mama Bees, I appreciate that. She's telling me great review. Good night, everyone, and I will see you in the YouTube streets. Thank you. Goodbye.